Hey guys, I'm architect Michael Rasica. I run a group coaching program called the ARE Bootcamp. It helps people who are at the beginning of ARE 5.0 get started, and it also helps the people at the tail end finish and get out of taking architect exams. And so in today's video, I want to talk to you really quick about breaking ARE 5.0 down into smaller bite-sized pieces. But before we get started, let's give a quick shout out to our friends at the Midnight Charrette podcast. Hey, do you listen to podcasts during the day in the office? Well, you need to check out the Midnight Charrette. It's hosted by two young architects, and the best way to describe Midnight Charrette is that it's like an architecture variety show. They cover a lot of ground. They interview great architects. They're constantly talking about how to find success in your architecture career. They review buildings, movies, and discuss solutions within the profession. Search for the Midnight Charrette podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, or Stitcher. So recently I was talking to a woman in my pro practice boot camp, and she said to me, Mike, before I took boot camp, I had failed 2 exams, and then I signed up, and we've been studying really, really hard, and I think she was taking the PCM exam. And she says, I feel really good now. I feel like I understand, and I have a lot more confidence, and a lot of pieces are starting to fall into place. And, I'm going to take this test, but when I look at the bigger picture and I see how hard I've worked for one architect exam, it feels daunting. It feels exhausting to know that I've got 5 more after it. She says, all 6 of these exams, it's kind of like this very overwhelming task. And I said, yes, I could see that. You have worked really hard for one exam. And so I thought about it for a second, and I came back and I said, listen, what if? Take it or leave it, but what if? Instead of looking at ARE 5.0 as 6 exams, what if we looked at it as if it was 2 phases instead? And let's say phase 1 is these pro practice exams. It's the PCM, the PJM, the CE exams. And, I say when we look at it as 6 exams, it fails to acknowledge a couple of things. And I would say the first thing is that I said, even though you didn't pass those 2 exams, it was not a waste of time at all. It was still progress. It was still progress at working you closer towards the goal of getting through these pro practice exams. Another thing it fails to realize is I said, you are very well prepared to take this PCM exam. And after we take this test, we're going to look at PJM exam, the PJM exam as the next exam. And because you went above and beyond and really dialed in what you need to know for the PCM exam, that's going to help you so much. You're gonna look at the scope of the PJM and be like, all right, a lot of this stuff I've already really dialed in, and because I worked so hard on the PCM exam, and so it's progress. It's progress towards your next exam. Another thing to consider when it comes to looking at it as if it's 2 phases as well, is the beginning of the phase is going to be a lot harder than finishing the phase. And so this is a bad analogy, but let's say I was going to do 10 pull-ups. And so the first pull-up's not going to be that bad. But by the time I get to the 10th pull-up, I'm going to be struggling. It's going to be a lot harder to do that 10th pull-up. I would say ARE 5, studying for an architect exam would probably be the opposite. It's going to be a lot harder at the beginning of your exams. But by the time you're at the end of that phase, I would say all of the work, the hard work that you've done, you're going to be able to capitalize on it. And it's going to get a lot easier to wrap up and get out of that phase and move into the next one, or actually wrap up your exams. Same thing with the technical exams as well. Is, all that work you did studying to pass those 3 pro practice exams in that phase, it's going to be a huge help for you when the time comes to study for the technical exams. And then I was talking to another boot camper this guy had studied really hard for PA and PPD, and he didn't pass it. And then he took PDD and passed it. And I asked him, I said, do you think if you didn't do all that work studying for PA and PPD, you would have passed the PDD exam? He said, absolutely not. Because all of this stuff is building and building and building and building on itself. And so even though we didn't pass those exams, it really gave him a strong starting point to kind of launch off of and take it to the next level. And he'll go back and get those exams later. So I would say the moral of the story is you might have not passed an exam, but it was still progress. It was still progress towards moving towards that phase. And let's look at it as 2 phases instead of 6 exams. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is breaking ARE 5.0 down into taking it one day at a time. This is something that I really talk a lot to the ARE Bootcamp about. Because what I've learned is what people do is they spend so much time and energy worrying about the future, worrying about next week, next month, next exam, what happens after I get my license, what am I going to name my architecture firm when I finally start my own architecture business. And you know what they're not doing? They're not worrying about what they need to do today. And so I tell everyone, I say, stop worrying about the future and let's dial it back. Let's dial it back and let's worry about what needs to happen today. And I say, focus on winning the day. Every single day, let's make progress. Let's make progress that's slowly moving the needle just a little bit closer towards the goal. And we got to be realistic too, is not all days are equal. You know, some days you're going to have 1,000 things going on. You're going to be super busy. So what could you do on that day to make progress towards the goal? Another thing to realize too is that every day is a clean slate. Every single day is a clean slate. But all these things that people are worrying about in the future, all of this stuff can be resolved if you could just bring it right back and focus your energy on what needs to happen today. All right, team, that's all I got. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. And listen, guys, I just want you to succeed. That's all I care about. So keep working hard. We're going to get there. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.